think we're talking enough that we should put it in a podcast again. And then you got the camera, and here we are.
We were some fresh-faced boys.
Yes.
And
You didn't have the
more
curls.
hair on my beard and none of it on my head.
It felt like an adventure.
I can hear the music playing in my head.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button. I am one of your very getting close to getting sick again hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the hater of chaos, love triangles, and doppelgangers.
Paul, hey everybody, how's it going? And apparently my intro titles are going to get more and more intricate and detailed as I tell Alejandro about myself.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I mean, we're a gaming show, so we can talk about the TV we watch, and I needed to just blast some of the things that annoy you of some recent TV shows you've been watching also, so.
For anybody listening, we've been watching Vampire Diaries.
Yes.
And some Pokemon, honestly.
Hey, I've been watching too also, so.
It's good comfort food, I'll tell you.
How's life, Paul?
It's going well. The routine now of it storming its butt off midway throughout the day has held true just about every day this past week. Once again, so this is like almost 3 weeks straight of constant, like just 4 or 5 hours of rain, and then it's done throughout the day. It's really weird, but honestly I really like it because I know it's coming, I know it's gonna go away, and it just makes it a little bit cooler outside, so it's been nice. How about you?
Mine has just been inconsistent. I don't know if the audio is picking it up, but it's raining right now, so or it maybe just stopped. Thank the Lord. So, but it's been like raining so strong now. It's welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Meteorologist with Alejandro and Paul talking about the stupid rain for the 3rd week in a row. It's been that weird. So
it's been a weird time, and hopefully, I mean, I'll take rainstorms over actual hurricanes any day. So
yeah, that would suck if it's leading to that for you again. But
we'll see. So far, it's completely unrelated, and it just happens to be really stormy. Yes. But yeah, we'll see.
But would you rather that or a drought?
You know, that's a good question, honestly. I've never had to deal with a drought because we're such a coastal town, but I've heard it's terrible. Yes.
So, and then on top of the rain, apparently I'm coughing again, and I'm like, God damn it! Is this like the 3rd time this year that I'm getting sick? Because at the beginning of the year I got the Wuhan, and then I got sick again on like May. We did that episode where we both got sick. Remember? We're like, yeah. And now I'm like coughing, but I don't have like the itchy throat. So it's like, okay, this is weird. Why am I just feeling the coughing from like the chest when you feel like the phlegm building there? And I'm like, God damn it!
You gotta get those vitamins, boy.
Yes, and I think that's my problem, that I don't get much vitamins, and especially with all the rain, I haven't been getting my vitamin D. So I'm feeling like how can I say it? Old man. Like, my body hurts. I don't want to move. I feel very exhausted. So as you can see, for the beta listeners, I have my Spanish cut that says Daddy, that's with a Superman symbol there. And it's like, I didn't have ginger tea, but I have the next best thing, apple tea. So
apple tea is good.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that effective, but I will keep sipping through it so I don't run out of breath in this episode.
It makes you feel better, so that's all that really matters.
Yes, and I hope it helps me get through this episode, because this is the X Button Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Thursdays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Media, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-media. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. And I'm plugging in my website, thecriticalcorner.com, if you want to read the ranking of the God of War series that we did 2 weeks ago.
Finally written new things, everybody. Go check it out.
Yeah, I'm still promoting the thing I wrote 2 weeks ago, because then I'll be writing the new one, because I'm getting close to write the next list that I'll be doing. But I'm going to talk about that a little later. So, Paul, talk to me about this smorgasbord of things you played.
Okay, so for everybody wondering, my PlayStation Plus membership was about to expire it's going to on the 23rd, and I chose that opportunity to go ahead and bring in the PlayStation Extra category.
Yeah, the middle tier, the 15. The 15
Um,
a month or 99.99 a year tier.
Part of me was tempted to go for the full thing with all of the classic games, and I
Premium.
would have liked to, but I decided to hold off and just go for the one that offers a lot of
And
other free items.
to interject, good choice because the classic catalog is wanting right now. So it's not
Yeah.
like I got it because of the Jack games have been the thing how I've been playing it through them, but I don't see anything else that I'm like, man, this is like a must play. So you did good on getting extra.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I feel or felt hesitant was because I'd already owned most of the games that I would want to play on there. But I would say for anybody that doesn't buy as many games as you and I,
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely worth it
Yeah.
because it's really honestly only a little bit more, and there goes Felix.
Yeah.
It's really only a little bit more for all of those games that you get access to, and some of them are really heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm.
So a few of them that I had not purchased yet that I decided to pick up and try. Obviously, I played a little bit more of Assassin's Creed Valhalla,
Mm-hmm.
and my
Are you
heart is,
are you tapering off now from that one?
it is tapering off. It is such junk food that I
Mhm.
enjoy. However, it is so much of the same thing. And the story people that made those individual groups did not talk to each other at all because the pacing is all over the place.
Mhm.
So I'm like not feeling the plot at all right now. Anyway, so starting off my PlayStation Extra category to get some variety in my life, I started with Stray,
Mm-hmm.
and that was fun.
I begged you to try it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten too far into it. I got through, I got to that chill little urban area after you get swarmed by those little one-eyed things twice, I think. And it's adorable. It's cute, and I couldn't figure out where to go, so I turned it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it can. It'll take a little bit for it to. Here's my tip: look at neon signs. Like
Yeah.
neon signs are gonna be your best friend here.
It's that get to the orange neon sign. I just couldn't figure out how to get up there. So I'm part of it was just I wanted to try something different. So then I got the Descenders game, which is a procedurally generated biking downhill game. And I played that for like 10 minutes. I got through the tutorial and I was like, all right, this is a cool concept, not really my thing. Then I went to Shadow Warrior 2 because apparently they don't have the first one, but they do have the second.
And the third one is not there.
I don't think the third one's there. But I don't think that game aged very well. Both in the content style, Bulletstorm sort of energy, and it just looks rough. I don't think there's it's got to be capped at something below 60. And it was really grainy looking, like the resolution didn't upscale
It's old.
very well.
That game is from like 2016, 2017, so it's been a while.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I could see why people liked it at the time. I don't think it aged very well though. So then I played Mud Runner, which is, I don't know if y'all have seen, it's always on sale. It's that like, let's simulate a logging truck driving through a forest, and like heavily detailed nonsense about the vehicle you're driving with, like all-wheel drive and parking brakes and all that stuff. So it's like, hey, if you want to simulate like trucking simulator but on the rural side of things, that's all you. Not really my thing though. Ignore all the sounds, by the way.
Yeah.
Then I jumped into Returnal.
Yes, finally.
I lasted a little longer than all the others, but I didn't last too much longer. It's such a cool concept. It's a great aesthetic. The shooting is fantastic, and I wish I liked anything else more like that style. So it's like, I know it really has its spot, and I respect the heck out of it, but it's one of those, like with Horizon Zero Dawn, I just don't think it stuck with me because I got to that one of those first bosses. I know the first one that you're supposed to die at, and the title card rules did that one, and I was really glad that was supposed to happen because I was really pissed right after it. And then I got through, made it a good way, and just it felt like the boss was such a bullet sponge, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and there was just glowing orbs everywhere. And despite being risen from the dead once through like a random thing, I still died, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to not keep playing this because this is gonna require all of me, and I don't have all of me to give to this.
Yeah. Keep that installed though. I have it installed. There's a co-op, so
I'd like to try that, yeah.
Yeah.
And they mention it too, where she's like, "I've encountered other me's," and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So they're like tying it into the story for the co-op. So I want to at least try it co-op with you, and obviously it's not a From Software game, so matchmaking should be pretty easy.
Yeah, it will be more modern, and it's a different kind of get good game.
Right, and that's what I'm like. Gosh, that's a challenge. But just like you said, everything you said is valid because it looks great, it feels great, and that gun.
It's just moving, and that game just feels so special. It's so
good.
tight.
It's like third-person Doom. And it's good. And then I jumped into Sniper Elite 4, which I technically own.
Did you shoot the Nazis down there?
Usually I went for the headshots, so no, I did not shoot any Nazis.
In the Nazi.
No. It's funny because it's such a toss-up when you go for the torso that you're not really sure if it's a one-hit kill, so I just try to go for the head as much as I can. But man, that's such a fun game. And it's like, it's a concept that doesn't get old to the point where they just keep making a new game in a different part of World War II, and it just doesn't get tiring. I think I've only beaten the second game. I've played the third, and now
the new one's on Game Pass. Sniper Elite 5.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, because I was going to ask if we were ever going to split it on like a sale or something, because that one is like in France now. But anyway, yeah, it's just a fun game for anybody that wants like that stealth, but it doesn't really penalize you for it. It really just like wants you to set up a good position and then go to town. And the fact that it doesn't penalize you for going loud, it's just, all right, are you going to survive this process? Because you have like an SMG that doesn't have good accuracy, your pistol doesn't have a lot of distance, so it's all about that sniper. But it equips you that even though I feel like I'm terrible at sniping in normal games, that one makes it way easier. So yeah, that's
yeah, you like suck with one-shot weapons for some reason, so
I really suck, but there's a whole mechanic that helps you show like the descending. Have you played any of the Sniper Elites? Okay,
I think I did 3. Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know, there's a whole button that slows time, slows your breathing, and then it shows exactly where, plus like the wind direction and the distance, so you don't have to like constantly do that calculation, and you just feel awesome. But you can also change up the difficulty options on the fly to do custom. Anyway, all of that is to say, last thing I played was Jack 2.
Yeah.
And just been plowing through it.
Yeah, and now, did you play it because I just wouldn't shut up about it for like a week?
Pretty much. I'd still like on my bucket list to officially finish one day. And every few years, I plug away at a few more missions. I did confirm that I remembered I'd gotten way further on either the PS2 or the PS3 version, because I recognized some of the dialogue of one of the later missions that I got to. So I don't know where I finished. It might have been at the one that I stopped at this time, because I got to the infamous run through the slums wharf area gunfight, and boy, is that a fight, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you can't drop to the water because you get one hit kill by like a rocket that pops up from there. You can you cannot drive. You cannot drive any vehicle there, even though you pass in a vehicle through those slums like often, and you just get shot left, right, back, front, everywhere. It doesn't stop.
They send you hundreds and hundreds of enemies, and you just have to keep firing, but you can't go too fast because it'll instantly hit you. You can't go too slow because they'll come up behind you. You just have to shoot forward, turn around, shoot back, shoot forward, shoot back. And by the end, it's so spread out that they start shooting at you, and you die in 3 hits. No matter how much that little green bar says you have, you will die in 3 shots, and anything will hit you for that amount. And boy, does it suck.
Yes. Yeah, but you beat it, right? You beat that part, or do you stop there?
No. It was really late, so I was like, I'm just gonna like come at it again. So tonight I'm gonna make a fresh crack at it and see how that goes. I'm pretty sure I know I can do it. I was tired and it was time for bed, so I was like, I need to come at this.
Yeah, and if it was
fresh
tilting you, you needed to stop there. And
honestly, it wasn't as much as I thought it would, because I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing well. And then I kept like kind of dying, but I was also being kind of dumb about it and experimenting with the different guns to see which worked, which the minigun is obviously so much better than all the rest, because each one of them gives you ammo for a kill and you just running over bodies left and right. So
yeah.
Man, but I can't lie, that game is so fun to just drive around in, and the feel of it, and the weird Shadow the Hedgehog dialogue between all of the characters is just really funny. I'm glad that Daxter exists, because if not, gosh, it would be such a
it would just wouldn't work. Yeah, it just wouldn't work. It's like, I beat Jak 2. I beat it 2 days ago. Finally, I was gobsmacked that I actually beat it when I saw the trophy pop and being like, oh my god, did I actually beat this? Because that game has been under my skin for a good 2 weeks. It's way longer than I ever gave it credit for, especially when I saw the reviews.
You were ready to quit for a few times.
That slumps part was like one that it was late at night. Also, I was like screaming at our chat, cursing. I posted a video just to show which part it was. I read the comments of that video, and I was like, I'm feeling a little vindicated here, because a lot of people unanimously agree that part was a quit point for many. And it exemplifies everything that's right and wrong about Jak 2. Jak 2 is such a freaking good game that I hate its part. Like I mentioned it last week, I hate the parts I hate as much as I hate them, because it's just a game where the vibe is just so cool. The kitchen sink approach of everything you can do in that game is just so cool. That
a wonderful blend of aesthetic as well.
Yeah,
it's like fantasy, sci-fi, all the crazy nonsense, flying cars.
Yeah, especially because I started Jak 3 immediately, and sorry, and Jak 3 was such a. It was just oh man, they actually nailed it finally. Checkpoints are more forgiving. It still hasn't lost a little bit of its difficulty. Jak 3 is technically a better game. I don't know if I like it though as much as 2.
I mean, like, they do add a whole lot of extra stuff, and that's one reason why I'm looking forward to trying it once I've actually beat Jak 2.
Yeah, it's more that it feels like Jak 3, because I want to look. Jak 3 was done in less than a year. Like Jak 2 came out, and in less than a year, Jak 3 was already out. They worked on that game really quickly. And it's very similar in structure to Jak 2. It's still like an open world, like semi GTA style open world game. They added now like buggies, so it makes you feel like you're playing a cartoon Mad Max, which in concept is really cool. The thing is that Jak 2 felt like more of a smorgasbord of different ideas that somehow work all together. Jak 3 feels like a more curated version of that. And as long as you're down to experience like a desert, like mostly a desert environment when you're riding a lot with a lot of quiet time, but with really cool looking weapons, but with a lot of shooting, I feel like Jak 2 would have been the perfect game had the quality of life that they eventually introduced with Jak 3 had been like morphed into it. Because I don't know if aesthetically the game then improves afterwards. Like Jak 3 is like, it's an impressive thing to look at from a 2004 perspective of how much Naughty Dog mastered being able to seamlessly go through an entire world at that time with no loading, which is kind of crazy. And
it really is when you think
yeah, it's like them and Santa Monica, they always like making their games be so seamless, and they like pushing the technical limitations of PlayStation hardware. And there's like a really cool card that lets you jump super tall with like rockets, and it's like Jak 3. There's something fun about it. It's like it feels pleasing. It's like I'm not as stressed playing it like I was with Jak 2, going through a mission and be like, I hope I don't die, because I know it's gonna push me all the way back. It's like, it's almost crazy how good the checkpoints are in Jak 3 now compared to how they are in 2, that it can set you back almost 20 minutes of progress, which to me is like asinine to think about, that they play tested that and thought it was okay. That's what's crazy about it. Jak 3 is an improvement in cinematography. Jak 3 is like an improvement in mechanics, almost like shooting feels better there, even though it's still not a real shooter. Like it was until Uncharted that we finally will get the double sticks to aim and shoot. This one is just auto aim, but it just feels a little bit more refined. It's just that it feels like Jak 2 is so jarring coming from the first game that I can see why people are like, Jak 2 is the best in that series. But I feel it's just like the memory of how weird it is and how edgy it is. 3 is not as edgy. And Jak is a little edgy, but it doesn't feel like the edge fest of like all characters are that kind of edgy, because there's that character in 2 that speaks almost just like Jak, and they go back and forth, and it's just hilarious. After doing that, I once again, because I always like having a laugh, I went back to see the Stranger of Paradise reveal trailer and died laughing once again, just thinking about your reaction about complete edge fests. And it just puts so much context for you. It's just so funny.
It does explain a lot, doesn't it? And it made me realize that those edge fest moments in Jak 2, that's why I'm so glad that Daxter exists. Because that's the one that's aware of the fourth wall. That's the one that doesn't take it seriously, because
he's a cartoon. Jak, like Daxter is a cartoon.
And it's like they took Conker's Bad Fur Day and made a character around it.
Without the cursing.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I think that's why a lot of those games work that do, is because there's always somebody who's in on the joke. And more and more, one of these days, I will go back to Stranger of Paradise and really put my best foot forward at it. But
hey, I have proof that you were enjoying it, so don't deny yourself.
And I was enjoying the demo because it was easy to kind of like turn my brain off and not think too much about it, especially because I listened to what you said about putting the difficulty on the story / casual, which is, I still think that was poorly decided on their part for the titles of that. Because the one that's called action, you cannot approach it like a regular action game.
No, not at all. In fact, I actually put it in an action one because I told you I showed it to a friend because he wanted to see it. And
how far did you get on that, by the way? Because we didn't really talk about your revisit.
Because it was so little that I showed him. I got all the way until the looks like chaos is waiting for us. That main castle, and like I just was having the laugh of my life seeing my friend be so bewildered by it, and him real, like, especially when he has very poor memory. He's like you in a way, so I remember I actually showed him that reveal trailer way back then, but he didn't remember, and him realizing, wait, does this guy just say chaos all the time? I lost it. I was like, yes. It hits you how many times it's like, yeah, it's all about the chaos.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you proofread your world building elements, because if you happen to have a through line, where even I almost called him Hideo Kojima, Tetsuya Nomura realized after the fact, saying, hey, there are several elements that had the word chaos coincidentally put in it, but when you string a sentence together with them all, you say chaos about 6 times. And I think he made an example of it and said like the chaotic something, chaos, whatever. And it made me giggle, and I was like, oh, so he just like actually made a bit of a mistake on that one, and that made me kind of appreciate it, because I know what that feels like, where you're not paying attention. You're like, oh yeah, this sounds amazing, and then you put it all together.
But I feel it's like the more you play it, you know it's intentional. That I remember how bewildered you were of like the trailer, that initial reveal trailer that always feels,
you gotta admit, was terrible.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, especially because it's the one that looked all grayish, because obviously they went and colored that game afterwards. Yeah. Because in that initial trailer that was all like monochrome.
It was gray and maybe red, and that was about it.
Exactly, and it's the longest string of like, this is the Shrine of Chaos. Chaos is here. Chaos, and Nomura just has that problem that he finds that theme and drives it, like you mentioned. He just drives it home. Kingdom Hearts is darkness. The darkness, and this one, and this is chaos. But that first trailer didn't seem like it was in on the joke. It was until we saw later trailers that were like, they know. And that's the thing. If you show that you know you're being ridiculous, that's what makes it more.
If I had seen that trailer where it was I did it my way instead, I would have praised this game for being so ridiculous. But
they should have started with that one, like having that I did it my way. It's just like, I cannot believe that Frank Sinatra is like canonically
in the Final Fantasy universe.
Oh man, it's like, I'll tell you, it's like I hope we get another game that bewilders you like this, because just the endless amount of comedy that game gives me, like just that reminder when we were talking with our clanmates and you were explaining your hatred for that game, and me in the background just losing my breath laughing, and then they were like, "Are you okay?"
Oh gosh, that was some good times for sure. And
Yes.
it would have been like a one and done, not even really thought about that game after the fact, but the fact that you held on to it for so long is now like a core part of my personality in your mind.
I know. It's just, I think it's funnier to me because I know you. I know what a good person you are, and you hating like a previous edgier version of you. And on top of me learning that you're like a 6'5" giant, putting all of that together, it just makes it even funnier for me. So, oh man, it's like I just love that happened. It's like June 13, 2021 will always go down in history for me with that. And I hope we eventually get to play that game co-op. That's what I'm waiting. I have it installed. So
Sometimes I hope so too, and I don't have it installed, but
it's a big 71 gigs, so I don't blame you. So
and for the PS5 copy of it, it's like I can't hold on to that kind of real estate for very long.
All right, Paul. So enough of what we've been playing. We have a few stories to get through before I pass out of breath. So
Yeah,
press X
for some news.
All right, Paul. This one broke today as a follow-up to Sony's response to the Brazilian thing about the whole FTC style regulator that they were talking about in Brazil about the Activision Blizzard Microsoft acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
So Sony talked last week about what they thought about like how Microsoft acquiring Activision would affect them. Microsoft punched back with two things. So number one, Xbox has accused Sony of paying developers Game Pass block fees. This is from Video Games Chronicle, and it was written by, I'm opening it up here, by Chris Scullion. Yeah, the company claims Sony's trying to inhibit growth of its subscription service. As part of a document sent to Brazil's Administrative Council for Economic Defense to justify its proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard, the Xbox firm claimed that Sony actively attempts to inhibit growth of Game Pass by trying to prevent content appearing on it. The comments are part of Microsoft's response to Sony's claim to the Brazilian body, which makes much of its response public, that Xbox acquiring Call of Duty would be anti-competitive. Here's a quote. Considering that exclusivity strategies have been at the core of Sony's strategy to strengthen its presence in the games industry, and that Sony is a leader in the distribution of digital games, Sony's concern with possible exclusivity of Activision's content is incoherent, to say the least, Microsoft claims in the documents published by Cade. It only reveals once again a fear about an innovative business model that offers high-quality content at low cost to gamers, threatening a leadership that has been forged from a device-centric and exclusivity-focused strategy over the years. It then claims, indeed, Microsoft's ability to continue expanding Game Pass has been obstructed by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth. Sony pays for blocking rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services.
Oh.
So, they're pushing back being like, hey, dudes, you're literally not allowing us, you're paying to not add, so that developers don't put games in our service.
I mean, I would like to... I don't want to sound like a Sony fanboy, but I would like to see proof of that, because they're just throwing that out there. And I'm like,
here's the thing.
I know it's probably true. It's probably true.
Now, there was this document that leaked last year about Resident Evil Village.
Yeah.
That alleged that Village could not come to Game Pass initially because Sony had paid for it because they had the marketing rights. That was just kind of like in the Vine. That people were like, we can really corroborate this. How much stock can we put on this? But that's like, if you put two and two together from that leak from last year, that people were like, we don't know about this, and now Microsoft's saying this, like, yeah, Microsoft's not gonna go quiet and allow Sony to with their fears, putting all this fear mongering over this acquisition. But
I mean, good for them in some ways, where it's almost like that, hey, you do this too kind of attitude, where I'm like, okay, yeah, good for Microsoft for clapping back, but also like, Oh gosh, well, I mean, that just means that both of them are admitting that they're totally taking competitive abilities
Well,
away.
also, there's these. You have proof here also in this article. Here it says, these kinds of platform deals have been common in the games industry, and reference was even made to PlayStation blocking third-party games appearing on Game Pass in docs revealed as part of last year's Epic versus Apple lawsuit.
Okay, so that was revealed in that lawsuit. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, now they're not like waving. So it's like, it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look. But also not to be like a Sony chill. It's just Sony's business model is completely different than Microsoft's. That's objective truth. Look how long it took them to give us the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, and even then it's like that's kind of like a half step. It's not going all in like Microsoft.
You could argue that Microsoft also hates Game Pass because, as we've established, they don't like the fact that they lose so much money on it.
That's the thing. It's not that I wouldn't agree to say that they hate it because they're all in on it. It's like every game they make is going there. There's no game.
But because you were the one that told me like they already promised it, so they couldn't get rid of it. But so they're like, we might as well go all in.
Yeah, I think it's more like we were talking about the implosion that was happening with Netflix. Mm-hmm. That Netflix is just losing so much money right now because of the downturn of subscribers that it's having right now, that they're losing just millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in stock and all of that just because they're losing subscribers. And I feel like we're talking like Microsoft must secretly be like scared knowing that the bubble for streaming services is like popping. Right before the show, I sent you that picture that Disney Plus is ready to jank up the price for a non ad-free version of it. And that's the thing. Like right now, Game Pass at its price with this game is such a sweet deal. People shouldn't be too comfortable with that price because, as we always see, inflation of cost always like rise and rise. Look at Netflix.
$20 now for their highest.
Exactly. Remember when it was $6?
Yep. And it's always gonna just keep going up, even though it's all digital and there's no cost for them.
And here's like the problem with subscription services. Like the only reason why you would stay subscribed is if you're always having content putting there that keeps you in.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to realize that it's not really sustainable to constantly be in that churn of we got to keep putting more content. And how sustainable is that? Like, do you have enough money? Like, Netflix would do like $25 billion yearly investments to keep content coming in. And a lot of the content that they put in Netflix is trash. Once in a while, you get really cool stuff. Like, there's Neil Gaiman's Sandman that came out last week.
Yeah, which
excellent, shockingly good.
I didn't hear any marketing about it until after it came out, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So that's actually
it was being marketed.
It was already coming out.
It was being marketed if you knew where to look, depending on where you were reading. But it wasn't like something that was being blasted all over because they don't have budget to constantly give a huge marketing push to everything. Because Netflix is in the market of put every kind of movie, and even if it's any kind of TV show, any kind of movie, everything to make it seem that there's content so people don't just watch and unsubscribe. Their goal for many of these people is to perpetually have people constantly subscribing. That's kind of like the model. And with the inflation of cost, the collapse of Netflix, the weird thing that's going to be happening to HBO Max now that WB Discovery is a thing, and we heard the horrible news of everything that WB Discovery is doing. And I feel like Microsoft, because they have so much money in the bank, they can constantly lose money on it just to try to make this thing grow. It's also just funny to see that Sony actually has enough money to brickwall them in a way.
And that's would make sense where they're like, oh, if you're gonna do a deal with us, you can't. It's like exclusive. You can't go elsewhere. It's like that non-competition stuff about it, and it's just like another case of big companies trying to grab up as much as they can.
Oh, this is so funny. Staying in that same article. Elsewhere in the document, Microsoft claimed that Sony does not want attractive subscription services to threaten its dominance in the digital distribution market for console games. In other words, Sony rails against the introduction of new monetization models capable of challenging its business model. Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And honestly, I don't think there's much more I could say about this.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that I still don't like the whole Microsoft acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like what Sony does. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, great. I mean, it's the Epic versus Apple thing all
Mm-hmm.
over again, where it's like, oh, congratulations, somebody's going after them, but at the same time, it's like they're still both huge companies that make billions, and none of us get
Yeah.
anything out of that.
Yeah, but what's funny is that this now back and forth just started because Sony was the only one after even Apple, Google, Ubisoft, other. When Brazil asked other publishers, "Oh, what do you think of Microsoft acquiring Activision?" and no one said it. It's like, yeah, whatever, they're gonna acquire. Only Sony was the one that we read it last week, saying their whole spiel about how big Call of Duty was, how much investment, how much it is such an entity, and how much it would potentially hurt us if people would then start associating Call of Duty
It
with
makes me
Xbox.
wonder
Yeah.
if Sony saying that was like trying to rally the gamers kind of attitude, where it's like, oh, look at what they're doing, trying to take over. We're on your side, and everyone's like, what?
And I feel it's also their fear that Microsoft may eventually then take Call of Duty out of their system, because remember I told you like just last year alone, Vanguard and Black Ops Cold War were the number 1 and number 2 best-selling games on the PlayStation 4 and 5 combined with everything that they put out, so they know how much money they make of that. However, it's like Microsoft many times has said that they're going to keep Call of Duty multi-platform, and they reiterated with this, with number 2. Microsoft claims it simply wouldn't be profitable to make Call of Duty Xbox exclusive. So this is also a story written by Chris Scullion. The Xbox firm reiterates it intends to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation beyond its Activision acquisition. In a document sent to Brazil's Administrative Council for Economic Defense, again, discussing the proposed acquisition, Microsoft claims that any concerns that Call of Duty would no longer appear on PlayStation are unfounded because it would simply not be profitable for Microsoft. Regardless of how unsurprising Sony's criticism of content exclusivity is, given that PlayStation's entire strategy has been centered on exclusivity over the years, I give them that. The reality is that the strategy of retaining Activision Blizzard's games by not distributing them in rival console shops would simply not be profitable for Microsoft, the company claims in the docs. Such a strategy would be profitable only if Activision Blizzard's games were able to attract a sufficiently large number of games to the Xbox console ecosystem, and if Microsoft could earn enough revenue from game sales to offset the losses from not distributing such games on rival consoles. We can put a pin there. $68.7 billion is how much this is costing them, so it's like, this actually does make perfect sense why not only Call of Duty, but Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, also from Activision Blizzard, are also multi-platform.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, it's basically the response of the no crap statement with another no crap statement, because it's like, yeah, they wouldn't gain the sales from all of the other consoles, especially with how widespread Call of Duty is. It's a no-brainer that they would want to hold on to that ability to sell it everywhere, not just wherever they are, because you sell more when you have more to sell. Yeah,
and on pinning, continuing there, it says, as if that weren't enough, exclusivity strategies will result in title-specific costs, it claims. Such costs added to the lost sales estimated above mean that Microsoft would not be able to offset the losses by earning higher revenues in the Xbox ecosystem as a result of implementing exclusivity. This is especially true considering that 1. The gamer-centric as opposed to the buy-centric strategy that Microsoft has pioneered with Game Pass, and 2. The fact that PlayStation has the most loyal users across its various generations, with all indications that brand loyalty accrued in previous rounds of the console wars, suggesting that PlayStation will continue to have a strong market position. Putting a pin there. Microsoft is actually praising Sony. It's like, dudes, we know that you have a loyal fan base in your place. We're not gonna cut you off.
Yeah.
Microsoft's still playing ball.
I mean, I think it's easy for them to say that, of course. And I have to play the skeptic on that one. But putting that aside and putting it in my pocket, I think it's really nice that they're at least acknowledging it, because you know how like the corporate language doesn't allow for compromise, to say the least, where they can even mention for a moment that somebody else might not like them as much as somebody else. And so I was like, all right, that sounds kind of nice and mature of them to say, like, hey, listen, y'all got a really mature fan base. That's all good, and you're gonna have people to keep playing that, so we want y'all to keep playing that. And I mean, now it's like win-win, because it's either you're going to switch and buy our console, or you're gonna play the game for the company that we own. So we get money anyway. So why would they?
And that's the thing, like, because usually it's like 70% of every game sale goes to the publisher, and 30% is like the cut that the console manufacturer gets.
Yeah.
So Sony was always getting that, and Microsoft usually were always getting that 30% of every game, every Call of Duty game sold on their platforms. This time, Sony retains its 30%, and Microsoft gets 70%. In other consoles, and 100% if they buy it within their own system. So it's a lot. It's just a lot of money. And it's like it just makes sense for me, with especially with how big Call of Duty is, that it's all about how big the player base can be, and those, like, in either ecosystem or just as an entire ecosystem combined. Ever since they allowed crossplay with Modern Warfare 2019, you might as well want to keep growing that number, because then you're gonna get all the money, and that way you're gonna offset the $68.7 billion that this whole transaction is costing you. So it's just so funny that it's like, obviously you can play the skeptic. Like, they have to be as playful as they can, because they want this transaction to go through. Obviously, because now they're the biggest gaming brand in the entire world right now, just on years of constant being the biggest seller every freaking year, even with Vanguard being a bad year. Because that way, then they show, it's like, it's a compromise. Like, it's kind of like what happened with Disney when they bought Fox. They didn't acquire everything from Fox. They had to compromise a few things. So
they had to shut all of it down or get hunted down by the FTC.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It hasn't been shot entirely. They had to they had to cut off Fox News into its own thing, the Fox Sports, and a bunch of different things from like different deals being done over the world, because that this is why this is happening right now. They're doing the world circuit, where they have to appease all regulators from all markets that this appears on. So it's always going to be like that little compromise. And right now they're like sacrificing their multi-platform games to like full multi-platform, despite them owning them. So people are not like, they went for the most expensive publisher to completely destroy the competition. That's how it felt when we read the news initially. So they know that they can't play the game, especially because the FTC is actually, they announced that they're going to be way stricter now on what they allow in.
I would hope so, considering there's like 4 companies left that make media.
Yeah, not only that, like for example, recently the FTC just brick-walled Facebook from acquiring something for like a fitness thing. And it was so minute. Like Rick Hogue, the lawyer that I've like following, he made a video about it. It's like, this is insane that they're playing this hardball over something that wasn't even a monopolistic play by Facebook, considering other times that they've tried to do that. So
shoot, I say good for them shutting all that down.
Yes, exactly. So that way it's not going to be like, because right now everyone in the Xbox platform is like, who else are they going to acquire? Right now it's so weird that everyone over on Xbox are just so focused on who can we grab? They're just so focused on trying to destroy the third party market, and they should have a rude awakening. That is like, I still believe that you can't do another Activision. You cannot do something as seismic as this, and this only happened because Activision went into a crap of their own making. So number 3, Paul. This one broke a day or 2 ago, or was it yesterday? I don't remember.
Maybe 2 days ago.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. Well, I think it was, yes. So it was this week. Marvel's Midnight Suns has been delayed with no new date issued. So this is again by Video Games Chronicle and written by, opening it up,
Andy Robinson.
I love that dude. That's one of my favorite writers. He's like the EIC. So publisher 2K has delayed the release of Firaxis strategy game Marvel's Midnight Suns. In a statement published on Monday, 2K said that the game, which was only recently issued an October release date, would now arrive sometime during its current fiscal year, which ends in March 2023. The quote says, "We have made the decision to move back the launch timing on Marvel's Midnight Suns to ensure that teams at Firaxis Games and 2K deliver the best possible experience for our fans." That's basically tried and true, everything we've always heard about this delay, so...
Yep.
Yeah, but the title will launch later this fiscal year on Windows PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5. The Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Switch versions will follow at a later date. And apparently there's an update. It says Firaxis added in its own statement that it's incredibly appreciative of all support players have shared with us throughout the years. It says, we have an important update to share regarding our launch date on Marvel Midnight Suns. After discussion with the teams, we made the decision to move back the launch time.
I understand what you just read.
Yeah. It was just that they updated the statement, so that was weird. So, ignoring that, I was going to say, it's so weird that the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch versions are going to arrive after the Series X and S and PlayStation 5 and PC versions. And I'll say this, Paul. I think those versions are dead.
I think if they do come out, it's going to be significantly handicapped. Lower textures, lower everything. It's probably even going to be down to mechanics where the loading is going to be terrible or something like that, where it's like literally the processing power required to do whatever they need to do is not going to be there. So this just sounds like they ran out of time and they were trying to crunch for it, and then they were like, oh my gosh, people are missing deadlines no matter how much we're threatening them. We gotta delay this. Yeah. Because you might not notice, but I have not a lot of sympathy for 2K and the decisions that they sometimes have. So yeah, I mean, that I'm not surprised by this, and I have a feeling that it's possible. There's a lot of people not liking the look of it, especially because they marketed it as an action game. No, and
they never marketed it as that. They always said it was a strategy thing.
It felt like one before you watched the gameplay, and then when you watched the gameplay, you were like, feels a little different.
No, that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't agree with that, because from the very first moment this game was announced by Jeff Keighley at Opening Night Live last year, the one you missed when you were gardening, he immediately said he announced it as an action strategy game from the guys that made XCOM. Look at this. And then that's
strategy is really such a broad term, though.
No, it's not when it's Firaxis, because you know it's XCOM. So the thing that people are not vibing with is that it doesn't feel like XCOM, because it's a card-based thing. Yeah. So that's what people are like, now that they've seen more of it and know that a lot of that strategy is based on that weird card system. That's what is making people more skeptical about it. And the fact that every time that they announce anything new about the game, because remember, we did see a new trailer for this back at Keighley's Summer, a disappointing showcase, that came in with another Metallica covered trailer with not much gameplay from it. And that's what's making people more skeptical. They're not showing much of the game to really give more of a deep dive to explain why the card system that they're implementing for this kind of action strategy game is actually gonna be worthwhile. That's where the apathy is coming. They should have been showing more of this game by now if it was coming out on October 6th. So
yeah, there's not enough details of it, and it's funny because I'm looking at it, and really the only thing that separates it from something like XCOM is the visuals of the cards, but you can recreate that, think about it, through saying, hey, you have this move and you have this many uses of it, and by doing a thing you get it back, and you just don't call it a card or show the card. And I feel like people would like it more. There's something about the card thing that people just mentally shut off.
Yeah, that you nailed it there. That's the thing, that they're, like it or not, people are apprehensive about card systems in games. They just are. And there's also kind of the fear that, is any of those cards, this being 2K, are they gonna let them be monetized? Because 2K is that kind of publisher. So
they certainly could. And I mean, they didn't ever said this was like a live service, right? No. It's like this just okay. I mean, that hasn't stopped people from monetizing before. I just wanted to make sure.
Remember when Star Wars Squadrons was not a live service? That was just a one and done game, and then they started adding DLC when they said they wouldn't. So
that pisses me off too, because that's a game that's like, it looks built for it. It's literally a competitive team-based game, and then you're like, yep, no new stuff.
Yeah, that's what cracked me up the most, especially around that time was when Avengers had just come out. It was like Avengers, the live service game that was promising all this content, and at that time it was delivering none of it because everything was getting delayed. And then Star Wars Squadrons never being a live service. It's like, this is a small title that is just complete as it is. Here it is. And then people were like, come on, do more. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, right. we're doing it. We're gonna add a few things in DLC, even though we said we wouldn't.
They didn't really add much. They added like 1 or 2 things.
But they still added them. That's what's so funny.
I feel like that's like, hey, all right, people are asking for this. What do we have lying around that's 99% done? Okay, let's just throw that at them and then we'll call it a day, because they literally gave like 1 update and that was it. Because I was following that game really carefully, hoping that they would turn it into a live service, because that's what you do with competitive shooters. And
that game is just kind of withering there. It's like it's not dead.
Like 2 weeks after.
Yeah, it's like it just exists there.
It's just not enough people are playing it because it's a 5v5 and it's so hard to find people in the competitive matches.
And it's on all the subscription services. So
all the main ones, yeah.
So Midnight Suns, like we can cross another one of the list of 2022 games. Like Paul, I think I'm ready to declare 2022 one of the worst years of gaming ever.
I don't know if I would ever call it that, because we still got stuff like Horizon and Elden Ring, and possibly God of War at the end.
Yes, and that's the thing, 2 at the beginning, and then like this incredibly massive drought that it's making 2021 not seem like one. And I feel it's like when I look back at it, it's like, man, if they only had the perfect hindsight of so many of those games in early 2022, at least being spread out around this time, to at least have a little bit of that pop, to not make the year feel so increasingly barren. Well, now 2023 is looking even scarier than 2022 going in. So
and that's how powerful that financial wall of a fiscal year is, folks. Because they will not go past that point, but they'll push it as far as they can.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about what we can always make fun of Square Enix in many different things because they screw up a lot. They were willing to push out Final Fantasy VII Remake out of that fiscal year back then because that was a March game, and they pushed it all the way to April.
Because everybody else tried to hold to that point, and they were like, hey, this needs like an extra month, and they made all the money because nothing else was going on.
Especially that was the beginning of the pandemic, so they should, like, this developer should be like not too especially now that you're seeing that everything is flooding the zone in January to March. This should be like a wake-up call of like, look at the rest of the year. Look how empty May is. Look how empty June is. Look how barren July is. Look how little empty August is. It's like everyone, like, no matter, I feel there's this old school mentality that because it's summer, people are gonna be outside and all that. It's like, guess what, people? Yes, people are gonna go out. The kids are gonna go outside and play. They will also come inside and play your game. Don't be close-minded. Like people can do both. People can be outside. People can then also come in after the sun comes down, like at 9, and play a little game. It's like there's that odd mentality about. That's why they don't want to release games in that season. They just want to release them when sun goes down much quicker, when there's winter, that they know they're gonna be more coasted up into their homes. Don't. It's like your games will be more successful if you release at a time when nothing's coming out. Look, we're talking about Saints Row earlier today before we started recording. It's like
they're getting a purchase from us because there's nothing else going on.
Exactly. So it's like we are at that point where like we've been just so starved.
Yeah.
And here's also the problem of how much, because we did split so many of the games that came out earlier this year. Is like, let's make a tally, Paul. Have you played Dying Light 2? Have you played Stranger of Paradise? Have you played Tiny Tina's Wonderlands? Have you played Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga? Have you played Ghostwire Tokyo?
I have played them all, except for Stranger of Paradise. I have not beaten one of them. I almost beat Lego Star Wars. I just have to play Rise of Skywalker, but I don't want to experience that.
I don't blame you, but
that one's not the game's fault.
Exactly. It's like, are those games in your rotation, or are there these other games? That's kind of what it's kind of proving that point, right? By meshing all of that together, it's very hard for your mind to sometimes parse back and wanting to play most of those games, especially because around that time we're playing Elden Ring.
Yeah. And it's very difficult to go back to something you purchased a while ago. For me, at least,
even it's from this year. That's what's so crazy.
It's just there's so much other stuff going on, and I feel like there's other things I'd rather play, or I'd rather go way further back than just earlier this year.
Sometimes you feel like you want to you want, because then they become backlog. That's the problem. And then when you become backlog, then you look at the backlog and you start going way back and try to climb your way up. That's
And
always that's always that mental. So that's why I tell you, those games, I think we would have still bought them because we did. I feel they just would have fared much better, like separate from that one game that sucked a lot of the oxygen for like 2 months for us. So,
and it's, at least for me, I think it has to by default still be in the game of the year section for right now, just at that halfway point.
And that's the thing,
because
like,
there's nothing else. I want it to be dethroned by something, and we'll see if it does.
And that's the thing, like right now, nothing, and I reiterate, nothing is gonna dethrone Elden Ring. Just nothing will. So there's that kind of like, now there's that aura to so many games from this year that you're like, what is like gonna be considered the very, very best that you need to experience to see who you would want to root for in that year. And 2021, I said it before, it's not my favorite year at all. I appreciated that there were so many good to great games that everything could be a toss-up in a way. It made you more interested to play, because there was like no consensus game of the year. It's like some people gave it to It Takes Two, some people said Metroid, yeah, PJ.
Yep.
Some people said Psychonauts, some people were like, no, Halo Infinite is the game of the year. So it's like, now looking back. So, but now it's like, now everyone knows that Elden Ring is, so everything else just feels so inferior or not as imminent for you to like, you really have to play this.
Yeah, I mean, when we get closer, I'm sure God of War Ragnarok is going to give some people their run for their money. Finally, that's probably the last one, and of course, the big Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 for some of those people out there are going to definitely hit that. But
yeah, I don't think so. I think Call of Duty hasn't been in Game of the Year conversation since 2010. So
has it not? Because I feel like Modern Warfare 2019 had to have at least won a few things.
Yeah. Just when you're talking about shooters,
Game of the Year, I'm thinking like shooters, some of the other awards for it. So yeah, no, you're right.
Exactly, but it's just like there was a time where like in 2009, like Modern Warfare 2 was in the running for Game of the Year with Batman: Arkham Asylum, Borderlands, Uncharted 2, Assassin's Creed 2. They were like in that list.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I was like, man, I think people's standards have risen, but then I was like, man, they're putting that up against Uncharted 2. Maybe they are just really
that's
thinking about it.
And that's the thing, like Modern Warfare 2 was a freaking almost masterpiece of a game. Like I agree with that one being in that Game of the Year conversation, because that was when the main guys that created Call of Duty were still running the ships, and Call of Duty felt special. Now then when those guys got kicked out from Activision, and then Call of Duty just became a constant assembly line of every year a new one. It's rare for you to like think about that game in the Game of the Year conversation, because it's just become I hate I'm gonna say this because freaking Jim Sterling once said this. Call of Duty is the of the game industry. Every year you change it.
Right, that is a terrible phrase.
So it's like every year you switch it. So it's like it's not gonna be in you could
have said like a fridge filter or something easy like that. Just gosh, I hate people sometimes.
Yeah. Always with me, you're gonna hear some really some stuff that make you pull the Tom reading newspaper looking bewildered meme.
Yep.
But
sure does.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like Call of Duty, its annualization is what makes the series so disposable. So that's why it's never gonna be like in that conversation, unless it's so astoundingly good that then people are like, yeah, we should do that. Like we should put it there. Kind of like even some people put Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the only one that they put in the Game of the Year running in recent years, back in like 2018. And some people are making the argument, if it didn't have the Assassin's Creed name in this, people would be thinking higher of it because it's still a...
No, I mean, you're not wrong. Mm-hmm. It's bloated, but it was solid.
People really took to that one. Yeah, people really took to that one. I have
to give it its credit for sure. Because
it's a game that it's junk food, but God, it doesn't let go.
It does not, and it felt great to play. And honestly, I feel like they took several steps back with Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'm feeling that a lot more, having revisited both of them very recently.
Yeah, and that's just common consensus about where those games land. And yeah, Ubisoft is a complete utter disaster right now, but you have to give them credit that there was a time where they were still capable of Game of the Year quality stuff, but I don't think they will because of this. Now, number 4, Paul, and final story. Tencent is reportedly seeking a larger stake in Ubisoft.
Real quick, do you want to explain to any of our listeners what Tencent is?
I would like for you to explain it.
So I have a lot of gaps in my knowledge, but Tencent is the Chinese-owned company that loves to put its hands into as much of the video games industry as possible, and is a lot of it's kind of famous now for very aggressive monetization practices and very sketchy things that they do in order to put a lot of games out and make a lot of money off of it.
And to add to that, what makes Tencent one of the scariest companies that is investing in anything that you may love is the fact that Tencent is controlled directly by the Communist Party of China.
Yeah, like
the CCP, the government.
So it's like literally the blend of the government and capitalism.
Yes. So let me read this story, Paul.
Owned by a communist company.
So this is a story by Jordan Midler over at BGC also. So Tencent is reportedly seeking a larger stake in Ubisoft. The Game Mode family, including CEO Eps, owns only 15% of their company. According to Reuters, China's largest gaming company, which currently already owns 5% of the Assassin's Creed publisher, is seeking a larger share of the company and has reached out to the French firm's founding Game Mode family and expressed interest in increasing its stake in the firm. However, Reuters notes that it's unclear how much more of the company Tencent wishes to purchase. Ubisoft is currently valued at $5.3 billion. The Guillemot family, including CEO Eves, owns 15%, like we mentioned. Three of the sources...
We hate her, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, so three of the sources speaking to Reuters claim that this is part of the company that Tencent seeks to acquire. During a financial call listened to by BGC last month, Ubisoft announced that it had ceased the development of Ghost Recon Frontline, Splinter Cell VR, and 2 unannounced games. And people now wonder if the cancellation of that is them trying to like lower the stake for someone to feel like they want to invest more. So there's always, I was listening to a podcast that I like listening to a lot, the Sacred Symbols podcast about. They are the only ones that always talk about the scariness of Tencent putting their claws in any of these companies. Is like the worst part that can happen is that you put 2 Tencent members in the board of your company because they're in, and then they're slowly gonna like pollute you and infect you. They're gonna put your tendrils and gonna start giving you so much money that they're gonna slowly increase their influence in the company. That kind of like a boiling frog, like
you slowly lower
exactly
raise the heat
until then you know that they're gonna have them majority stakes, and then they're gonna be calling the shots, even if they don't fully own the thing. If the brothers, the Guillemot brothers, only own 15% of their own company that they founded, what if Tencent gets 16%? Then that means every decision has to pass by them. And let's not forget, Tencent is a company that according to China's values, they hate gay people, they hate like black people, they have the wyvern problems that are happening there, where they have concentration camps for Muslims. And in an industry that is pursuing for more inclusivity, don't be surprised that if the tendrils of Tencent gaining a majority of Ubisoft then starts like stonewalling any progressivism that could have been happening, and monetization becoming even worse, because that's how Tencent operates. Ubisoft, like we had Ubisoft at Ubisoft last year for all the bad decisions that they were doing, and they put them now.
With this one,
yeah.
Oh boy.
Exactly. No, that's the thing. This would be the result of an entire year's worth of drain of goodwill.
I mean, we've been hearing them wanting somebody to buy them out for a few months now, haven't we?
Yeah, we heard them that they were like, we wouldn't be opposed if someone would want to have the conversations. They were hearing that because they lost so much valuation that only at 5.3 billion. Like, Ubisoft is considered one of the big 3 publishers. Remember, it was like, for third parties, you had your Activision, Ubisoft, and EA.
Yeah, EA.
So Activision, obviously the biggest valuation because of the biggest brands in the world there that put them at their 50 billion plus, and that was even low considering how much they lost with the lawsuits and all that. EA, another one of the big ones, is like at 35 billion. Ubisoft at 5.3.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there was a point where all 3 of them could afford their own segments on cable TV for E3.
Mm-hmm.
And Ubisoft still has that kind of money, but it's not the way it used to be. I mean, they're panicking for the stuff that they've been releasing, and we've already talked about all that stuff. So, I mean, y'all could go back on that, but so the fact that this is one of those examples of a perfect storm where you have a company that is very aggressive and very sketchy in its practices, picking up a company that did similar things and now is struggling financially and is looking for a way out. So I almost don't want to talk more about this because it does terrify me, because Tencent has wanted to break into the Western market for a lot of years, and
this would make them break in a big way because Ubisoft is such a massive worldwide publisher,
and they still own the IPs to a lot of the biggest IPs there are.
Yeah, it's still like, I recommend everyone like go watch this video called The Dark Age of Ubisoft by Mr. Matty Plays. It's like a 30-minute video where he details the rise and fall of this company, like how they were once the bastion of creativity and then they just became the bastion of homogeneity. It's so funny that they swung so hard from creativity to homogeneity, and the homogeneity broke for them in Breakpoint, and then they have just been like pursuing others, like the money, like bunch of free-to-play stuff, failed battle royales, X-Defiance not even out, Assassin's Creed being like they try to focus so much on them and bloating them to oblivion because they have nothing else, to the point that now a DLC is becoming like their own, like its own game, because they are so mismanaged right now. They only have 2 games for the rest of this fiscal year. One of them that became a live service with no story, with Skull and Bones, that's coming out as a $70 game the day before God of War Ragnarok comes out, and that Mario and Rabbids game that's only happening because Nintendo's kind of also helping foot the bill there.
Yeah, I think the only reason that game exists is because Nintendo.
Yeah, and they did like what they did with the first Mario and Rabbids. That was
they attached their Rabbids mascot to a good game.
Yeah, they did,
and that was all they did. Exactly,
but that's just a sign of massive mismanagement. Like, they have so many APs that they could properly exploit and they just don't. And I tell you, it's like it just I feel like the true downfall started with Breakpoint. Then they got ravaged by the Me Too movement, and then they started pursuing the dollar because they suffered heavy attrition, projects being completely mismanaged or delayed. They canceled 4 games. So it's like, I feel so sad. It's like, if you would flash back to me back in 2013 and you asked me which is your favorite of this 3, I would always say Ubisoft in a heartbeat. And them being slowly gonna be having the tendrils of Tencent, it's gonna forever change this company.
If there's anything else that I can hope for, is that they, like, this is still not set in stone. We just know that they're going to want to.
Yeah.
And apparently, I was reading one of the comments, and they've already prevented a hostile takeover.
Yes.
From other places.
Vivendi try to hostile takeover Ubisoft, because Vivendi used to have Activision. Because that was Vivendi Universal, and then Vivendi was went on went to bankruptcy, and then they actually had Blizzard, and then Activision absorbed Blizzard from them because they were like in a fire sale. So that's when Activision became Activision Blizzard, because they took it from
a while ago.
Yeah, this was in 2008. This was in like 2008, and then Vivendi slowly like got out of its bankruptcy and wanted to get into game again. And in around 2015, 2016, they secretly started buying shares from Ubisoft because they wanted to hostilely take over the company. That was also, you could argue, that was also the beginning of the end of Ubisoft, because around that time they wanted to prove that Ubisoft was doing all the right moves, that they could stand on its own, that they doubled down on everything that worked for them. So that's why the homogeneity of the open world checklist started making its way into all the games. That's around that period from 2016 all the way to 2019 that everything seemed the same for them, because before that they still had UbiArt. They had the Valiant Hearts. They had the South Park games came out around that time. Rayman. Then they just doubled down on the open worlds, and then people also kept buying them. So they're like, we're doing something right. Let's just keep putting this out so we can just push these guys out that from hostile taking over us. And then eventually Vivendi was like, you know what? It's like, we can't convince the board that Ubisoft is doing a bad job to let us kind of take over. So we're going to just sell our shirts back. Now they ran into their own problems. So now they're going to have literally Mr. Lucifer himself, Tencent. By the way, do you watch the clip of Riverdale that I put about the devil?
I don't think I did, honestly.
Oh my god, you should put a Riverdale Mr. Cypher, but because they're like they did this character cool Luis Cypher, which is basically Lucifer, and how he makes deals. That's how I pictured Tencent. Like he's that kind of like suave man coming in, and I wanted to bail him out. Oh god,
Riverdale is strange.
It really is, and I can't wait for you to eventually like fall down that rabbit hole. But
I don't know if I ever will.
You will. That's what you said about Vampire Diaries. So look where we are. So.
See, I did, but then that was unironically cool for 3 seasons, and then it tricked me. But we'll see.
But definitely look at that clip because that's how I picture Tencent being like.
Yeah.
Like them coming in, they're gonna like come bail them out, gonna offer them infinite amounts of money because of their ties to the CCP, and they're gonna be so desperate that they're just gonna then be like, yeah, you can have majority, and that's their own fault. So
I really hope it doesn't end up coming to this, but who knows?
It may, Paul. So game releases, Paul, for August 14 and August 20th before we close shop here. So Blossom Tales 2: The Minotaur Prince, an action game, comes to Switch and PC on August 16th. By the way, my birthday.
It looks like Link's Awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then the Roller Drome, that PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, PC action sports game that is like Tony Hawk / Jet Set Radio with that Sable art style that's kind of like also a shooter.
Oh, yeah.
That we saw the State of Play on June. Comes out also on August 16. Curse to Golf, a sports game, comes to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on August 18th. RPG Time, The Legend of Wright, a role-playing game because it's in the name, comes to Switch on August 18th. Thymesia, an action game, comes to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, also on August 18th. And rhythm music game We Are OFK also comes on August 18th to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC. And Madden NFL 23 has no, you know what it is. Comes to all consoles with exception of Switch on August 19th. And this one's special because it has John Madden in the cover because he recently passed away. Right. So this is gonna be like their celebratory, like honoring of the guy that used to be such a big part of American football. So Roller Drum is one I want to see more because it actually looks really cool. I don't know about any of these other games. Does any of them look interesting to you?
I remember, if you don't remember, there was the video that I talked about with all those cool indie games that were coming. Yeah,
by Skill Up, right?
Curse to Golf was one of them, and I think the RPG Time as well, because I remember RPG Time was like hand-drawn, and it was ridiculously complex what it's able to do. Look at some gameplay of that one, because it's entirely through the eyes of that notebook, but it keeps like opening up and adding 2D sketches.
Oh yeah. I think I've seen. Yeah,
it's really cool just from like an artistic standpoint. And then the Curse to Golf was really cool, little like pixel art style 2D like Mario Golf style, where it's like cute, it's silly, but it's basically a golf character. I think he gets struck by lightning and has to like get out of purgatory, but it seemed really cute. So I think some people will be surprised by it, but it might also go super under the radar, unfortunately. Nice to see that Madden is going to actually show John Madden after he passed, even though it's kind of gone way past what he started as. And I want to see more innovation from that series. Yeah,
it's kind of like NBA 2K. I think it was 2K21 that did this. They did the Mamba edition.
Oh yeah,
to honor Kobe Bryant after he tragically
I still
crashed.
Can't believe that was real. Yeah,
that was pre-pandemic, Paul. It was like World War III was a threat. Then Australia was on fire. Then
I forgot about that.
Then Kobe died. And then the lockdowns happened. It was
January happened, and that was such a ride.
Yeah, that was 2020. That's what I hope people does like a breakdown in history books of what 2020 was, because
I want one of those like CNN style on like the whole decade where they focus on one aspect. I want that on the 20s, because boy did it start crazy.
yes.
Oh man, it's gonna be funny when I'm in like my 60s and my grandkids are gonna pop up and be like, "Hey, so we're doing a paper on 2020. Could you talk about what your experience was?"
It could be an entire dissertation about how could like, to me, I could actually make a dissertation as like 2020, the year satire died, because every headline available to you, like that was the. Wait, there's more. Have you seen that meme of the wait's more? That's how 2020 felt. It just felt like a year that got progressively worse. Do you remember that even in that same year, on August, a freaking bomb went off in Beirut? Because
I do.
Remember, it was like the big cloud.
Hundreds of people died, and I thought that was like, okay, so this is going to be the end of the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we didn't know like what caused it at first.
And it was some fireworks. And that's the thing.
Yeah,
to this day, I still will never ever like believe that was just a fireworks. I feel something else was there.
I will say fireworks are wildly powerful in groups,
yes.
because I've seen that happen in the land of the free, where people blow their hands off regularly.
Oh yes, but enough to create a mushroom cloud. That's what's that to me is like, oh man. And then 2020, like I just look back at that year and oh man, and in those episodes earlier when we're like, oh yeah, this coronavirus thing, it must not be a big deal, and look where we are now. So oh man, I tell you, that pocket of episodes, our first to 13 episodes when we started doing the show, listening to that, and they're still on YouTube there if you can find them.
Yeah,
so many foot and mouth comments from me about that pandemic. That we're still, even though people want to believe that it's already over, it's not, people.
A lot of people here do, that's for sure.
Yeah, and wait, there's more, because now there's the monkeypox. So.
In any case, Alejandro, where can people find you?
They can find me at @A_Dura_Segovia on Twitter, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, at my written content at thecriticalcorner.com. Where can people find you, Paul?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I've been posting some recent art, pixel art, and regular. Working on some more things, some housekeeping that I forgot to take care of for my last project that we're working on, and hopefully we'll be able to send that out into the world soon. Oh,
and with that,
we have video games.
Yes. Well, I wish we had more to be distracted, but
fair enough.
And with that, we conclude this week's episode on my last episode as a 28-year-old, Paul. So,
woohoo. Yeah,
and by next week, I'll be.
Welcome to the club, sir.
Yeah, I'll be then just 1 year away from 30. That's terrifying.
And
you're already there.
The end.
Yeah.
I'm not 30 yet, but I will be.
Yeah, you will. So, for everyone to listen to the show, thank you so much. And like we mentioned at the beginning, you can like and subscribe if you enjoy this podcast. You can leave a comment if you so choose. Tell us what we're right. Tell us what we're wrong.
Please do.
Yeah, we'd love to
it's like
hear.
Talking into an echo chamber.
Yes, but I know that some people listen to us. We're getting close to hitting the 900 individual listens. So we're getting close to 1K without having to pay for ads, Paul. So that's what makes me a little proud. That. We could have been much if we had paid for advertising, but we're not. We're just doing it grassroots, basically. So
sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do wonder if eventually we'll get to like do those kind of sponsored segments. So, but everyone stay safe. Don't do anything heinous. Stay healthy, and remember,
press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta luego.